Hello, Jimmy Pardo. How are you?
I'm good. I just took a sip from what may be the worst iced tea I've ever had in my life. It is not a good iced tea. It is full disclosure. I bought it at Ross on discount, and it said sweetly sweet tea. No,
It's not sweet.
it is not sweet. And I need my teas to be sweet. I don't like a sugar free. No, I like a sugar free. I don't like a sweetless tea. Is
You
that
don't
it?
like a sugar free. You like a sugar free if it's got fake sugar in it.
I
You
need
don't like
some.
unsweetened. You don't like unsweetened.
I
We
need a
figured it
sweetened.
out.
I need a sweetened tea, and especially and it plays into what I think what we're going to talk about here today is that I need flavor. I need some sort of flavor. So um, the this will not satisfy me in any way, shape, or form. This will be a big disappointment.
What? Okay, so you have a podcast.
I do.
Obviously, I've set that up for our listeners beforehand. I've done your podcast.
Yes.
You've done my podcast. I was looking just a little bit at your bio really quick, and I was reminded how many insane things we have in common.
Okay.
So
Go.
we're
Start
we're
listing them.
almost the exact same age.
When is your birthday?
July 5th, 66.
And I'm so you're a tad older than me.
I'm a little bit older than you.
You are
Yep.
23 days older than me.
I am 23 days older than you.
Yes.
We both started podcasting around the same time. We also both got married the same year. So
You
both got married in '04,
2004. What's your anniversary?
February 22nd.
All right. Again, you beat us. We are May 22nd.
Both
Um,
on the 22nd.
both
That's
on
so
22nd.
crazy.
And even crazier is unless I'm nuts, we're both still married.
We're both still married. We're both
Yeah.
still married. And did you have, I had a kid in '04, but then I also had two more in '07.
We just have one
'06.
in '07,
'07.
September
Okay.
of
But
'07. Yeah.
okay. And mine are November of '07. That's a
Um,
lot of stuff in common.
it's a lot in common. Who's your
Also,
favorite band?
oh my God. That's really hard.
Is
I
it?
I have I have my musical taste is all over the place, but
Right, but you still have to have a favorite.
I like bands like Wilco. I
Ugh.
like I know, sorry. I like a folk rock. I like a singer-songwriter, but then I also love like Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins. Remember when I came on your show and I was embarrassing myself with my
I,
who's your favorite band?
Wilco, number one, of course. I'm kidding.
I was
I don't know what it is about Wilco. Let me just say this. I've tried. I've
Mhm.
tried because I too I'm a big singer songwriter fan. I love the singer songwriter. I love Jim Croce, and I love the modern days like Vance Gilbert and Ellis Paul. But
I
my
love
favorite
Ellis
band is
Paul.
Chicago, and but I will tell you this: as you being a fan of Michael McDonald, the new Doobie Brothers album that came out within the last 2 weeks is phenomenal. It is absolutely like I put it on like, and I said to my beautiful wife Danielle, I go, I cannot believe how great this Doobie Brothers album is in 2025. It's fantastic. So you're a fan of his. It's his first album back with them in decades. You should listen to it. It's great.
I've been to see the Doobie Brothers in concert multiple times, loved it. My favorite concert in the past like 10 years was Christopher Cross, Kenny Loggins, Michael McDonald. I have the worst, a lot of people would probably say I have the worst taste in music they've ever heard, but I here's the thing for me. I grew up on top 40. It's kind of all I had. My parents had really good taste in music. Honestly, they listened to a lot of really cool, like folky stuff. They turned me on to Joan Armatrading and
Mm-hmm.
Janis Ian, and they love the Beatles. But I had this weird, like, I just listened to top 40 radio and found comfort in it and liked such basic music. And there's something about the yacht rock, nostalgia, balladeer that I love.
I will first of all, I will not mock you because again, my favorite band is Chicago. My second favorite band is Journey, and then Styx and REO Speedwagon.
REO
And
Speedwagon. Me too. I went to go see Styx and REO Speedwagon and Loverboy opened for them in Irvine a
I,
couple years ago. It was so good.
can I tell you something about that? I got COVID at that concert. I was there with my son Oliver. I dragged him when I thought that he was a fan of Styx for a minute, which he was. He was a fan of Styx for a little while. I'm very lucky that I've become friends. Friends is a strong word. Tommy Shaw of Styx and I have become friendly over the years. He helped us with our charity event many, many years ago. And
I think you told me that and I got very
you
jealous.
should, because I will say this, as a kid who rode, I grew up in hometown Illinois, and I would ride, and Styx recorded in Oak Lawn, which was basically, it was less than a mile away where they recorded. And we would ride our bikes there every day, hope in the 70s, hoping to catch a glimpse of, and now Styx in the 70s, you're talking about rock stars. And not somebody that like, oh, I'm also in show business. I'm a kid on my bike hoping to meet Dennis DeYoung and Tommy Shaw. So I would ride there to try to see them, get a glimpse of them. I don't even know what I would have done if I seen them. Never saw them. So for years later, to then be able to text that person is insane to me. And I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so I'm with you. But I guess my long-winded point is I get mocked constantly for my musical taste. And I've just decided, and this was maybe within the last 5 years, that I just don't care anymore. I don't care that Oasis is better. They're not to me. If you like them better than you like REO Speedwagon, great. I don't. I'd rather put on, High Infidelity. I would rather put on Grand Illusion. Whatever. So I don't understand. You're mad at my opinion? Who cares? Opinion about music, not about politics.
Right.
Be mad about that if you want. Not you. I mean, somebody with a red hat is probably
Right.
mad at me.
Right. No, well, they're not listening to this podcast.
I would imagine not.
They hate me. Which is fine. I don't know a lot of addicts that are MAGA. Somehow it just doesn't work. Or I should say people in recovery. Probably a lot of alcoholics that love a red hat, but not people that are actually maybe working on themselves. Am I making a huge generalization?
I'm going to say maybe you are. Only because I think this is maybe an example of us being maybe in a little bit of a bubble here in the Los Angeles area.
For sure.
I think if you went to Ohio, there are MAGA hats at a meeting even as we speak. I think even they maybe realize some may realize they have a problem, and they want to be sober to watch the demise of the world at their fingertips because they voted for a madman.
They want to feel every bit of it. Be present.
I will not forgive any of them. I will. We have Never Not Funny. Going back to the podcast, Never Not Funny has lost so many listeners because of they've turned on it. We've lost them because I'm outspoken, and if they don't want to listen to me be funny anymore. Sometimes I'm not. I rant, but you know what? I can't. I don't care. Go listen to Joe Rogan. I don't give a. Go listen to Theo Vaughn. I don't care.
I agree with you 100%. And we gotta say what we want. It's our podcast.
It's our podcast. To your point, when people started going, "Hey, you're going to lose listeners," that's the whole point of stand up in a podcast. It's just like, this is my voice. I don't work for a network telling me to calm down. I work for me, and this is what I want to talk about. And the options are you listen or you don't listen. And thank heavens, more people listen than don't listen. I mean,
we started podcasting around the same time. Did we start doing stand up around the same time?
Now that's interesting. I started. Here's the truth. I did one open mic. No, that's a lie. I did two open mics as soon as I turned 21 because I can get into the comedy clubs. And it was a little overwhelming for me at 21. So I then took a year and a half off and did community theater around Chicago. And then in October of 88 is when I really said I'm doing stand-up. And then in February of 89, I got my first paid gig. In July of 89, I quit my day job. And so that was the, and then I have, here we are. I'm still doing this. When did you start?
I'm not sure. I think I moved to LA in, I think 86. And then I started doing stand up, but I was like 19 and I started doing stand up at 22. So a couple years. So around maybe
kind of around the same time. Cause I really got into it at 22, which would have been 88 88.
Yeah. So, and did we do like open, but you weren't here yet.
I was in Chicago.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me about the drinking though. I know you've been sober a long time, so you probably don't even like deal with these questions, but I know from when I had you on For Crying Out Loud and we bonded over quitting drinking, and you weren't like a drinker on stage, right?
Oh no. In fact, I just told my son a couple of stories. I was not I wasn't Foster Brooks. I wasn't, it wasn't my character of getting hammered on stage. I would go on stage with a Miller Lite. That would be my basically a prop. You know what I mean? I would just do a uh, for something to drink. I mean, I started out obviously drinking a soda on stage, and then it became easier just to hold a bottle on stage. Um, but I think I was probably not even, probably even was a year into stand up, maybe even longer before I even drank after a show or anything like that. I think I just basically would, you know, I, I thought of it as a job. I don't know what I thought of it as, but I was, I would, but eventually I then became the guy who would drink after the show, and I would drink after the show until they told me to stop drinking. If they stayed open till 4 in the morning and served me drinks, I would drink till 4 in the morning. If they said, "Hey, we're closing at 1:30," I would stop drinking at 1:30. I would drink on their schedule and not absorb it with any sort of food.
So, but were you already a drinker? Did you drink in high school? When did it
No,
start? Tell me the story.
I
No?
had one beer in high school when I went to a party that my friend Paul and I were we were not part of the popular football, athletic group, whatever that scene, that how every high school has that scene. And so we went to a party once. I'm not 100% sure if we were invited or not. And but we stopped in there, and there was beers in a cooler, I guess. I grabbed one, and I don't even know if I finished it. And then I didn't drink again until 86, which would have been 2 years after I graduated, when I too lived out here in California. I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and went to a party and got drunk there. And then,
Was it a deliberate decision? Because it has to be kind of deliberate to not really drink in high school because back then, and since we're the same age, there was a lot of drinking in high school
oh yeah,
for people like us. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have other stuff to do.
I guess I found other stuff to do. It just never appealed to me. I think I liked being in control. I will tell you, at the end of the day, I'm a square and I'm a rule follower, and it was at the time against the law to drink under kids. You weren't allowed to drink, and so I was
Right.
like, well, why are they drinking? We're not allowed to do that, and so I did not do that. Um, and then I did in '86 at a party here in Los Angeles when I lived in Pasadena to go to the academy, and then I drank a lot when I moved back to Chicago, just hanging out with friends, and then didn't drink with comedy, and then drank with comedy.
So what do you think it was? I mean, do you think you have an addictive personality?
Oh, I don't think it's pretty it's documented. Yeah, my wife will tell you in a heartbeat that I am. I just spoke to I have a new psychiatrist in addition to my therapist who just immediately diagnosed me with OCD and obsessive addictive personality. So yeah, I mean,
So when you do something and it feels good or you get some kind of reward, then you want to do that thing all the time. And then you can't help doing that thing.
yes, even if it's something as simple as going to a sauna, I will go like, oh, I'm enjoying this sauna. I probably should join and get a membership here and go to a sauna every single like it's like, and then at some point I'll go, why do I keep going to the sauna? I'm not interested in the sauna. Like, and then it'll be gone. But for a little while, whatever obsession it is, I'm all in on, and it is certainly it's very focused.
So you're drinking all the time, you're closing down the bars, but then
Yes,
you're not like going out and getting more alcohol and drinking at home unsafely.
very, very rarely. I mean, I would drive back to the hotel if I was on the road, drunk out of my mind, which to this day I can't believe. Or and maybe we even talked about this when I was on your other podcast. When I would do shows at the Improv here, and we would do, we then would stay there till 2 in the morning drinking. And I lived in the Valley. I would drive over Laurel Canyon. Now, for your listeners that don't live here, Google that and just look at the windy road that is, and it goes up and then back down because it goes into a valley. I would do that at 2 in the morning and on a dark road, drunk out of my skull. And how I am here. I don't say, by the way, I don't say this to brag. I'm not saying, hey, look how isn't it amazing how great of a driver I was. It's stupidity. I should never have been doing that. But I did it, and thank God I didn't kill myself. I didn't kill anybody else. I didn't crash. Thank God.
I can't believe it's so interesting because I also lived in the valley and I also would hang out at the Improv, and I would get drunk at the Improv, and I would drive Laurel Canyon home. And my thing, and it has to be your thing too. I never thought, oh, I'm so drunk. I probably shouldn't drive. I never thought I was drunk. I always just thought, like, yeah, I feel good. I'm relaxed. I'm fine. And I remember having arguments with my husband, not really arguments, but he'd be like, are you sure you're okay to drive? And I would feel defensive of, like, obviously, yes, I'm fine. Like, I
Right.
wouldn't be driving if I wasn't okay to. Do you know what I mean? It was
I
so, I
do.
was so like, I just
Wrong.
felt contempt for, well, no, but I was so sure that I was fine to drive. And it would always be way after the fact that I would have that, oh, I actually probably wasn't fine to drive. I was actually
Right.
probably kind of drunk. But it would only be after the fact. Do you know what I mean? Or did you feel like that?
I 100% did. And it would be like the next morning, like, and then, there'd be times where like, how did I get home? I don't remember getting home. Like I know, but it was always for me, it was like, uh, well, first of all, I'm having fun with my friends. We're laughing at the Improv, and I'm drinking. So I'm not drunk. I'm having a good time. And now the good time is over. And that means I go home. And yes, the reality is somebody should have taken my keys and not allowed, but I'm pretty sure we all were drunk. And it was just kind of the scene. Um, but to me, it was, I've got to get home. Like this, that's the next step of the evening is you get home, and the way to get home is you go to your car that brought you here, and you take it home. And um, nobody ever said you shouldn't drive. Maybe this, maybe that, but they should have.
I'm so alarmed at how often I drove drunk before I got sober.
Yes,
And then I tell my kids, listen, one thing that I will have zero tolerance for is driving drunk. You don't have to. Like there's no excuse for it. You can Uber. If you even think that you're going to have a drink, you need to I'm happy to drive you wherever you're going, and then you can Uber home or I'll pick you up. But it's interesting that, like, I do think with them it's a choice. I guess if there was Uber now, I would go, oh, well, I'm probably going to have some drinks, so I'll just Uber. I guess,
I
except that, like I said, it wasn't a decision I thought I was making at the time to
right.
drive drunk.
I think that the world is different today, certainly, and I'm sure maybe somebody said that 25 years ago when I quit drinking, 26 years ago, but or when you and I were getting hammered at the Improv, maybe somebody else, some other sober person was like, "It's different today in the 90s than it was in the 70s. We just drank and got high and did our thing." It just seemed different. It seems different now. There, again, to your point, there wasn't Uber, there wasn't Waze. To call a cab seemed like a hassle. And my car's right there. So why would I take a cab to go all the way home to then take another cab to come all the way back? I will say this, there was one time where I was at going back to this, I was at the Universal Amphitheater seeing Styx in 1996. And I had backstage passes and got hammered because it was free. And the guy I was with, Pat, I said, dude, I can't drive you home. I know I can't. I said, I think I can get me home, but I don't think I can get you home. So I dropped him off at another friend's house and said, you got to bring him home because I can't do it. And then I drove home. But I just, something in my mind knew there's no way you're going to navigate both places. So that would be the closest I think I ever came to
So
not.
funny because most of the time I drove drunk too, and only one thing stands out, which is one time I got drunk at my parents' apartment, which was up walking distance from the Improv, but I'd driven there. So Bonnie McFarlane was at my visiting with my parents. We walked to the Improv. I got even drunker. And then she was like, you can't drive home. I'm going to drive you home, which was all the way. She lived far from me. So she drove me home. Then she went home. But then the next day we had a meeting. And then that's when I really felt bad because she had to then come get me, take us to the meeting, and then take me back to my car. And that it stands out because that was one of the and it wasn't my choice. It was her saying, you can't drive.
Right. Yeah, it's
And she was
interesting.
drunk too, but a lot less drunk than
But
I
less than
was.
you, clearly. Yes. Yeah, I worked with, I don't want to say the woman's name, but we did the same deal where uh, I was drunk, but she was drunker. And she was so drunk. She's like, I don't think we could drive home. And I'm like, I can handle it. And clearly we did. We got home, but it was like, no. no, neither of you should be driving. Neither of you guys should both be sleeping in the car. And there were a couple times I will admit on the road where it was like I would do a gig. Like if I was when I lived in Chicago, I worked in Milwaukee. I do remember there was one time that I was driving home from the gig and I saw a Denny's on the side of the road. I just went, you know what? I'm going to park my car there and sleep in the car. I just can't. But in fairness, that might have been because I was sleepy more than drunk. Now that I say it out loud.
I used to go to the Commerce Casino sometimes, get drunk, play poker, and then drive home on the 110 with one eye, like covering one eye, because I was like, I don't know. It's like maybe I need my vision checked because
You
for
think that was
some reason,
that?
and I would think every once in a while, maybe I should pull over, but then I'd be like, I'm not gonna, I'm a woman alone in a car. I'm not pulling
Uh-huh.
over on the 110. So then I
I
would just be like, I'll make it,
Yeah. I mean,
just
and
cover
again,
one eye.
knock wood, you did. You know, you pirated it home and with your one eye patch. And
So, so what happened? What, like, I know for me, I had a baby and that's what happened is it got worse before it got better. But what made you decide like, because we were all doing that in those days. I feel like being a sober comedian wasn't really a popular thing, or was
no,
it?
it wasn't. In fact, the guy that was sober kind of was like, he'd go back to the hotel and admittedly, people gossiped about him. Like, what a, oh, the guy doesn't like to have a good time. And when in reality, it's like, maybe he's going back to work on his act. Maybe he cares about the show business, about the business part, not just the show part. Um, so what happened? Is that what you're asking? Why did I stop?
Yeah, of course.
Um, well, let's see. What are we at? 26 years. It was 1999. Um, I had stopped a couple of times prior. My friends, Paul and Carla, talked to me, and they're like, I think you're drinking too much. And of course, yeah, and you know this, you get defensive. No, I'm not. I'm a comic on the road. I'm having a good time. But I was getting, bloated and getting, I moved here to be a television host. I moved here to be on television, and I would always get very close to jobs, and then they would always tell my manager they would never use the right words, but they would basically say Jimmy was the best, but we had to go with this guy. And then I would see the guy they would go with, and it would just be handsome guy. You know what I mean? And it's like, so in retrospect, when I talked to some of those producers, they were like, the network just didn't like the way you looked on camera. It was clearly you were the best for the job, but you were, bloated from, they didn't know I was a drunk. They just thought I was overweight probably, but I was, I had that beer bloat under my face, and I probably came to some auditions hungover. I probably did all that. And so, um, I wasn't feeling good about myself. And so my friends would say, you got to stop drinking. You're probably losing out roles. You're not looking like you. You're not as sharp as you were, blah, blah, blah. And I would get defensive and say, you're wrong. You're wrong. I'm great. I did the stupid thing of, no, drinking makes me loose. I get a little funnier when I'm leaving. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're not a guy that works at the mill. That isn't a true statement. You need to be sober. I do anyway, to be sober and to be sharp, to think 4 steps ahead.
Did you ever get into an argument? Did you ever have a fight with one of your friends
No,
for
not
saying
really.
that?
Just kind of them saying you should do it, you should quit, me getting a little defensive, me pushing back, and then eventually going, well, you know what? Let's give it in my brain. I'd go, I'll try. And then I would be sober for a month. And then, oh, we're playing poker or, whatever. We're playing, a bunch of friends we're going to a Dodger game, and I'd have a beer. And then before you know it, it's one beer, and then it's one an inning. And, it's, me driving everybody home. And then when it eventually happened in 99, I'd been dating my now wife, Danielle, for about a year. And, just wasn't the best boyfriend. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I just wasn't the best boyfriend. And I mean that as far as, who likes hanging out with a drunk? You know what I mean? Nobody. And I'm very grateful that she stayed with me for that year, that I would, I would be a drunk, and I would call her from the road drunk and just be a jerk on the telephone and just say mean things and just
Like
be,
how?
um, you mean how in the
Like what
regard?
kind of mean things?
Oh, I don't know if we need to get into details. Just kind of, what it was at the end of the day. It was me. This is the overarching thing. It's like, well, I'm on the road and I'm drunk and I'm thinking about cheating. So certainly she must be cheating, because if I'm thinking that, She must be thinking it, and she's probably doing it. And so I would call up and leave voicemails like, "What are you doing? Why aren't you home?" And just like, and she would like, and then the next day she would be like, "You can't leave those messages." And then one time she played it for me, and like, Jesus Christ, what an a-hole I am. And just, I mean, I just hated myself. And I know I was doing it like, relationships prior to that had not been good. Clearly I was single and dating somebody new. So something had gone wrong in those relationships. So I think I was once again sabotaging this relationship by, well, you know what? She's not going to stay with me. She's not going to love me. So I'll ruin this somehow. And I guess, subconsciously that's what I was doing by calling her and leaving those messages, or, probably just trying to force her to leave me so that I could just continue being sad and lonely and pathetic. When in reality, nothing would be better than getting sober and being with her. But uh, I don't know. Finally, in 1999, I was in Boise, Idaho, and just was drunk out of my skull, left another one of my famous messages. The next day, she's like, no, I can't. I'm not going to keep doing this. And she never said the words, if this keeps going on, I'm leaving. She never said those words, but she's like, I'm not going to keep doing this. Maybe we need to, figure some stuff out. And then whatever words. And I don't know, again, I don't know the exact words she used. Whatever they were enough for me to go, I'm done. I'm not going to screw this one up. She's the greatest thing ever happened in my life and the greatest person I've ever met. Why stop it? And so I just stopped it.
And how, first of all, I want to say, I think you bring up a really interesting point, because a lot of people in the sober community will say you can't quit drinking for someone else. And there is some logic to that, but I have always said, like, for me, I drank the same way you drank. I think I got drunk. I was dating somebody, it was actually a comic, and I felt him pulling away a little bit. And one night, I already just felt that, like, he doesn't like me enough. He doesn't want to be with me. And we went to this sort of party. We were all sleeping at a house, and I got really drunk and broke up with him. Like, but in a drunken, like, yelled at him, "You don't care about me. Like, we shouldn't even be together." And then the next day we woke up and I was like, oh, I didn't quite remember it, but he said, "Yeah, you said a lot of things last night." And I was like, "I did." And I vaguely remembered it. And he's like, "Yeah, you broke up with me." And then I was like, "Well, maybe I was speaking a little too fast, like,
Right.
And then he was like, "No, I think it's the right thing." And in essence, it was the right thing, because he was already trying to break up with me. And I'm not saying he's great or anything. He should have broken up with me before that. But years later, I considered making an amends to him, and my sponsor was like, "No, we're not going to call that guy. You
Really?
behaved badly, but you need to leave him. He's married,
Leave him
his
alone.
kids, like, just don't do something like that again." And you won't, because but it was interesting to me that I was still like, "Oh, let me get some reaction. Let me apologize to him so that I could still get it." Anyway, my point was going to be
Mm-hmm.
that all of that, I did that stuff over and over and over. And it wasn't until I had kids and had a moment of clarity. And I've told this story on this podcast many times, but I drove drunk with my kids in the car.
Oh no.
Yes, I did. And nothing happened. I was somewhere, the kids were having a good time. I did my thing, which is, I'm not drunk. We're just all having a good time. And
Right.
now I have to get my kids home. I'm not
I
going to
do.
call my husband to come get me I'm in the car with the car seats. So I'm going to just get home,
Yeah.
which I did. But my husband was so upset, and he'd been trying to call me. Anyway, I had that moment like you're talking about, where I quit for my kids. Quit because I was like, I will lose my kid. I will do this again, because it had been proven to me that I always drink like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I will at some point do it again. So I quit for them. Now, it took me a long time to realize, oh, I'm going to stay quit for me, but really not even for me, for the fact that I'm dangerous drunk and I have too much to lose. And I feel like we need to appreciate the fact that you can quit for somebody else. You can quit because you're just scared to lose a thing that, right? And then,
But is that for somebody else or is that for you? Isn't that for your own? Like, did I quit for Danielle or did I quit because I didn't want to lose Danielle? So that is quitting for me.
but it was still an outside force, a threat of losing Danielle. So it was Danielle was important enough. You didn't
True.
quit for other girlfriends.
No, I did not. That is true.
So I think it's both. I do think you quit for her because she was hurting due to your
Yes, I'll go
drinking.
along with that.
And then you stayed quit because you were like, oh, now I have the girl. And also, oh, look, being sober is better.
Oh, life's better. Yeah, there's no question life's better. Except at concerts and baseball games. But
Of
it,
course.
I
So how
mean,
did you quit?
I all right. Let's say I was in Boise, Ohio, Idaho. I was in Boise, Idaho on a Sunday, July. Was that the 18th or 19th? Whatever. I get them conflated on what was my last drink day and what day was the first day of sobriety. And then on that Monday night, I went to a meeting in the Valley, which was, again, this is 1999, so there was a smoky room in the Valley. Everybody was smoking in some
But how did you get
storefront.
there? Did you look it up in the phone? Did you just call your friend that you
No,
knew was
Yellow
sober?
Pages. I went to the Yellow Pages and looked up
Wow.
AA, and then called, and then like, here's the ones that are in your area. And so it's like, oh, that one's right here on Laurel Canyon and Victory, I think it was. Is that Victory? Yeah, whatever it is, wherever the Sears once was, um,
Oh,
uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right there. And so I just went there and sat there and and absorbed it and was like, man, I don't know if this is the right, I don't know if this is the right vibe for me. So then I started bouncing around to a bunch of other ones. One on Ventura, Radford, I think it was called, and then one at a church, and then one that a bunch of rock stars went to. That was weird to me. That's like, oh, we're all okay. I don't know if I should see all of you here, but I did. Here's the truth. I did every day. I went for 30 days. I went to a meeting every day for 30 days. And then I went to a meeting. I did not go to a meeting for another 30 days. I went on my 60th day and I have not been to a meeting since. That is how
But
I did it.
so when you were going,
Yes.
did you think these people that I'm not as bad as these
Yes.
people?
100%. And that was a big part of it was like, somebody goes up there and talks about how they set them and their family on fire. And then my rock bottom is I called my girlfriend and left a message. It's like, I felt like a fraud in a way. It felt like, oh, I can't quote unquote share with these people. It's like, it'll look like I'm trying to do stage time or something because it's like, it doesn't compare to these other people. So I didn't share very much in the smaller quote unquote men's group. I keep saying quote unquote, I'm sorry. In the smaller men's groups that I went to. And again, I only went to 31 meetings or whatever it was, 32 meetings. The small men's groups, there's only 6 of you. So you're kind of forced to share. But at the big ones where it would be like 50 people, I would just sit there. And sometimes I would go in that first month, I would go to an afternoon one and I would go to a night one. And that goes back to what you're saying about being an addicted personality. Going to the meetings, I think this is true for a lot of folks, but for me particularly, going to those meetings for the month was the bridge I needed to get to not drinking. I was able to then be addicted to those meetings for the month. And then, I guess not wean. I just kind of stopped doing those too. And then went back for my 60-day chip. And that was going to be a thing I was going to do. I was going to keep going back to get my chip. And like, because I'm still doing it, I'm still accomplishing these mile markers.
Yeah, you want your prize.
In a way, but then I also was like, well, no, that you're not part of that program. That doesn't seem that, it's almost like stolen valor. You're not, who are you to show up every 30 days and take a chip? Who are you to, show up, 90 days later and go, well, I'm here for my 1 year. It's like, well, nobody knows who you are. Like you're just popping in to get a chip so that you can go home and go, I did it. You did it. So, I stopped doing that and luckily it's worked. And, then I guess I just found other things to get obsessed about.
So what was the point that you reached, because I feel like you must have, where you accepted, like, no, I actually have to stay quit.
Well, I
Even if I'm
still
not going to meetings and I'm not around. Because for me, I went to I'm still a meeting person.
good.
And
I'm
but
not
I'm,
anti-meeting. I want to be very clear. I
no,
am not
no, no.
anti-meeting. I know folks
I'm,
like you and my friend Paul. I mean, if without meetings, Paul would be a disaster, and I
I,
am grateful for them.
yeah, and I'm not hearing you like shitting on that.
No, in any way.
I'm just saying for me, I am a person who will talk myself out of like I would notice at the especially for me at the beginning, I was the opposite of you. I would like go and then I would not go for a couple weeks and I'd
Mm,
be like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not like those people. And then I would go again because whatever. I had a friend that called anyway, eventually I just stopped fighting the idea that I'm so different from those people. And I really started to go, the the funny thing is, even though I drove drunk with the kids, when I would hear other people's stories, like you, I would go, "Well, I didn't abandon my kids on the side of the road and go to the bar all night. Like
right,
I just simply drove buzzed home, and it really took this one time. I would share about it. Like I was proud of it. Like, well, I don't know, I have a pretty high bottom. I was very
right,
functional, and like what I did was this. And then one day, this woman said to me, you drove drunk with your kids in the car. Like, it's not that fancy. And it really hit me like, oh, who do I think I am that I'm better than other
right,
people because I only drove drunk one time. And then I really had to take an honest assessment of all the other times. I mean, yeah, I drove drunk that time with my kids in the car, but I drove drunk a million times.
right,
I could have killed somebody on the road. It so there was a moment for me that I went, okay, I I am like these other people. And that was very freeing for me to just go accept the fact that like, yeah, I'm not somebody who should drink. And
right.
if I start drinking again, I will continue to drink because that's what I do. So was there a moment like that for you where you're like with or without these meetings, like I can't drink again because it's been proven to me over and over that I can't have just one?
Um, well, that's a great question. As we are 26 years, about to be 26 years sober. I maintain, and I don't ever want to experiment with this, that if I went to the Dodger game tonight, that I could have a beer and then tomorrow go, I'm back to not drinking. And the only thing that's keeping me from doing that is I kind of like being able to say I've been sober for 26 years. I kind of do like having this invisible medal around myself that I've accomplished that. Um, but I think I really believe in my heart of hearts, I drank out of boredom, and that if I'm not on the road and I'm not bored at a bar, and if don't put myself in those situations, that I would be okay. That said, again, if you ask my wife or my new psychiatrist, as I mentioned, and they say I have an addictive personality, I think what I just said flies in the face of what they think, and I will.
Oh, it's such alcoholic thinking.
It is, I know, but at the same, but
And
uh,
there's so many stories. One thing I will say, I really don't like the big book, but one thing I will say about the big book of alcoholics is there are so many stories of people that thinking that's like just a universal thinking
right,
of all people in recovery is like, I just feel like it's been so long and here's why I was doing it and I was bored or I was that was a stressful period and I really think I could probably have a beer and then these people die.
yeah, and here's the truth, I don't want to find out. That's really the end. What it comes down to is like I don't want to be at a concert and go, you know what, tonight's the night I'm gonna have a beer. And then what's the next thing that happens? You know what I mean? Is that the night that I drive home from that concert and because I haven't had a beer in 26 years, that one beer gets me drunk and that's the night I crash. Like I don't want to try I don't want to find out. So
I feel
here
like it
we are.
doesn't happen like that anyway, though. How it happens is you go to the concert and you have a beer and you go, oh my God, look at me.
Yeah.
I had a beer, nothing happened. I didn't get swallowed up. I didn't get drunk and do damage. What was the harm? It was fine. Look at me. I can moderate. I could have a beer and go out. Then the next time you go out, you go, well, I'm at a restaurant with my wife, with my beautiful wife. And like, why shouldn't I, now that I know that it's not something that I'm going to abuse, well, I'll have a glass of wine or a beer with dinner. And then you do that. And then the next time you go, well, I'm just at home. I'm not even driving anywhere. So you know what? We're watching TV. It'd be fun. Have a couple beers.
Right.
And then you start having more and more and then every night you're like, well, I'm not going out tonight, so I'm going to have like 4 beers. I mean, if I'm going to drink, I might as well feel a little bit buzzed.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and then pretty soon you're not really doing any damage. You're not drinking and driving because you're too smart for that. But your life gets smaller and smaller because you're staying home a lot more and you're having 6 beers every night.
Um, and I'm going to add vanity into it. I also
Okay.
know that 6 beers a night is going to make Jimmy look bloated, and he doesn't like the way he looks when he looks bloated. So there's all of that in this mix as well. So I don't see me ever drinking again. I'm also at you and I we're like you said we're the same age. Um, I don't know, man. Is there anything worse than seeing a sloppy 60-year-old drunk? I mean, it's some barfly. It's horrible. So I don't want to be that guy. So I don't know. I think I'm done. I think. I don't know.
There's something though too about maybe because I do go to meetings, I'm just reminded all the time of like what it would be like. I'm not suggesting that you do, but I'm saying I can completely understand having that fantasy of like I could if I wanted to. And maybe there's a freedom in that in just going like I'm choosing to be sober.
Hmm.
I don't really have to. It's not court ordered. Like if I wanted to have a beer, I'd probably be fine, but I'm going to choose not
What a
to.
ju- Yeah, there's enough other stuff in my life. Um, family, friends. We work in comedy clubs. We see drunk people. There's enough reminders out there that I, I I know what the other side is, and I don't want to be there again.
Is there
So
alcoholism in your family?
not really. My dad would just have a drink or two from time to time. My mom has since passed away, and she would just maybe once a year get tipsy. Maybe. I don't even think she probably had any alcohol in the last 10 years of her life. But uh, every now and then, my mom was only 20 years older than me. So, when I started stand up and my mom and stepdad would come and see me do stand up to support me, I was like we talked about 22, she was 42. So 42 going to a bar isn't all that crazy. And so she and my stepdad would have a couple of drinks and watch the show and then maybe be a little buzzed or tipsy afterwards. And I remember at the time going, oh, my mom's, it's like, she's 42 having a couple of drinks. That's what people do. She's not, yes, she's your mom, but she's not some, it's not some battle axe going out and having a drink, so it was, no, there's really not. My brother will drink from time to time, but uh, no, it just again, my dad never did, my mom never did, his parents never did. I don't even think my grandparents ever. I mean, they might have been the old Italian people that would have, a glass of wine every now and then. I don't even know. I don't can't even imagine my grandparents drinking.
Well, let me ask you this, and you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but I'm just really curious. So you're feeling insecure a little bit about Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
You quit drinking. How did the relationship? I can't imagine for somebody like you or somebody like me, it was immediately like, oh my gosh, all the insecurities are gone. And now I'm
Of
just
course
like
not.
present and a great boyfriend. Like, how did you deal with now you're sober and you're feeling everything and you're still probably scared of fucking it up and you're probably still having feelings about intimacy and being in a, right? How
Mm-hmm.
did you get through that? Like, did you guys talk about it a lot? Or I can't imagine it was just magical and happy as soon
Oh,
as you
it certainly
quit.
was not. But I mean, and again, I'm forever grateful that Danielle stayed with me and she saw the good person I could be, and dealt with all of that. And in retrospect, as I think back, it's like, boy, that's a heavy that's a heavy conversation for a young woman to go through, and a heavy, she was just in her mid 20s, and it's a heavy, yeah, it's a big ask to ask somebody to go on that little journey only a year into a relationship with you. So again, I'm very grateful. Here's the truth, and I'm not avoiding your question. I don't really remember it. It's 26 years ago now, and I don't really remember. I know that it was choppy, and then it just eventually wasn't, and then it just became like a relationship where like any relationship, you have your ups and downs, and just like you, I mean, we've been together, now 20, I guess 27 years, and so in 27, it's not all perfection. There's hard times, there's easy times, there's in between times, and uh, I don't remember the right out of. I assumed that it was better only because I wasn't drunk, and then it probably just became just a relationship. I don't know. I'm just
So did you
talking to hear
ever
my own
leave
voice.
another mean message once you got sober?
No, of course not. No. Mm-mm. I might have said crappy things in the heat of an argument, but no, no, no. Mm-mm.
It's different though, right?
Uh, yeah, but well, there's also when you're drunk, and you know this, when you're drunk, you somehow have this unwritten permission to do something stupid because then you can say, "Oh, I didn't mean to leave that message. I was drunk." But if you're sober, you already know you don't leave that message. You might be insecure. Maybe I was in my hotel room insecure, like wondering, "Oh, what's going on?" I'm in Indianapolis and she's back at home with good looking actors and comics and stuff, and maybe that was going through my mind, but I'm not drunk, and I don't have that permission to leave the message and then go, "Oh, it wasn't me. I was drunk." So I stopped myself from doing it. Maybe that happened. I don't know. I'm going to say it did.
That's so good. I know that I used to drink and then pick a fight with my husband
Right.
and then not even quite remember what we were fighting about the
Oh.
next day and
Mm-hmm.
then have to sort of stick with it because it's embarrassing to be like, well, I don't know why I was acting like a bitch and
Right.
like yelling at you. I can't remember. So I'd have to be like, you obviously did something bad and now I'm pretending to still not really be speaking to you.
Yeah. Boy. Oh
I
boy.
that completely stopped once I stopped
Right.
drinking.
Of course it did, because you're in the right frame of mind. You're present. There's a great. I may have mentioned this on when I was on your podcast before, and it's my go-to. And people that listen to me probably are sick of me bringing this up. There's a song by Colin Hay from Men at Work, and a song called "Beautiful World," where he's got a great line in there about sobriety, where he said, uh, the second half of the line is, where I leave the party early, or at least with no regrets. And it's like, what a great line that is. It's like uh, that was the most freeing part of getting sober was I didn't wake up the next day going, who do I have to call and apologize to? Who, how did I screw? Who did I yell at last night on Melrose Avenue? What comic did I say this to? What girl was I tenaciously flirting with? In a, who knows? What my behavior was, but I know that once I stopped drinking, I didn't have to wake up and go, all right, let's do the check marks and, or call somebody and go, did I do anything stupid at the improv last night? And then go, dude, you did blah, blah, blah. And like, oh, Jesus Christ, I got to call that person now or whatever. So that's all gone, which is lovely.
You know, just another weird thing we have in common, but I love Colin Hay. I'm a
Yes.
super Colin Hay fan. Been to see him so many times.
Right.
At Largo a
Yep.
million times, bunch of different places. And one of I made myself this sober playlist, and this was 16 years ago, so don't ask me what else was on it.
Okay.
But Freedom Calling is another Colin Hay song that's about sobriety.
Oh, I don't know that one off the top of
Ah,
my head.
it's off of Topanga, I
Yes, it is.
think.
Okay.
And it's such a beautiful song, and it gives me chills when I would just play it over and over and over. It's really beautiful, and it's about not getting drunk anymore.
Well,
And I
within
feel like waiting for my real life to begin is also has to do with being a drunk.
It is a beautiful song that sadly Scrubs overplayed, and it now I have Zach Braff's face in my mind when I heard that song, and it
See, I
infuriates
never
me.
watched Scrubs, so it's not ruined for me.
And you're better off as a person for not having seen it. But you have to watch those T-Mobile commercials and still get irrationally angry at that guy. Topanga is within the CD is within 2 arm lengths for me, and I will listen to it as soon as we're done here. My guess is I've heard that song 1,000 times and it never clicked that that's what it was about, and so now I will listen to it through those glasses and or through those headphones, and appreciate it.
How did you discover Colin Hay?
Well, I mean, I worked in the record business back in the '80s, so I knew Men at
Oh,
Work.
yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then
So you
uh,
got a job. I know we're almost out of time even,
yes,
but just for for my listeners,
Okay.
obviously. So you first started out in the record business. Now I remember this. You quit a really good job to go be a comic.
Yes, I worked in record stores, and then the guy that ran the Chicago branch of MCA Records came into my record store. To this day, I don't understand it. He's like, "Hey, you'd be great working for me at MCA. Do you want a job at MCA Records?" Which was the gold. That was the gold ring of, oh my god, I'm leaving. I'm going to work for a record company and hang out with rock stars and get free records and blah blah blah. And and so I did that at 19, and I guess no, I was 20. I was 20. Um, so I did that at 20, and I was making crazy money for a 20-year-old. Probably making crazy money for anybody at that time. The record business was, it was the late 80s. I mean, it was, CDs were just selling like crazy. Cassettes were selling like crazy. LPs actually were slowing down. But I was making a ton of money, and as great as that job was, it clearly was not uh, what my life was meant to do. And I started doing open mics, and legitimately doing open mics where every night I would leave MCA and go to open mics, and I was not doing my job. And I was also not a good comedian because I was an open mic. I was just starting. And eventually he gave me the ultimatum in July of 89. He forced my hand to quit. I would not have quit. I would have stayed there another year and done open mics around town and made this great living. But he was like, you got to decide between stand up or this. And I told him, well, all right, give me overnight and I'll tell you in the morning, which even that was like, are you, you're not funny. What do you do? You're going to choose this. Why is this even a question? And then I came in the next morning and I told him, I'm gonna leave. I'll get my 2 week notice. And then at the meeting that morning, he said, hey, before we get started, I want to let you know Jim is quitting. He's going to pursue stand up comedy. And the silence in the room was, I mean, it was definitely some of them have come to see me and they saw me bomb. So like it was like, great, yeah, good luck on that. It's okay. All right, Jay, good for you. Follow your dreams. Like real high pitched, nobody being sincere. And they were, at the time I mean, listen, history's on my side. It was the right call, but I've not seen any of them since. Like I've never seen, like not one of them has ever popped up in a show at a show. And, hey, remember me? I was Bridget. I worked at MCA. Like I've never seen any of them again since I left there. It would be interesting if they know that, look, I'm not a household name, but it worked out. I'm thrilled.
That's so funny. I think this all the time about high school for me because I was just very much a nobody in high school and I'm still waiting for somebody from high school to look me up and go, "Hey,
Right.
I didn't think anything of you in high school and I never thought you and look at you." Never, not one time has any. And I'm like, "Well, I try to tell myself, well, I have a different last name. Like maybe if they saw my old last name, they'd be like, "Oh, I remember her." But really, you'd think somebody would have figured it out. Having a podcast for this long, I
Right.
mention all the time where I grew up, where I went to high school. Nope, never.
Nothing. And you don't go
Nothing.
to you don't, you've not gone to the reunions or anything?
Oh, no.
I did
Do-
not go to my 40th. I went to my 20th. The 40th was I just feared I would leave hating everybody because of MAGA stuff. Like I
Mhm.
just where I grew up, I would say 7 out of 10 people voted for him. And I don't want to go to I don't want to I'll have my memories. I don't want to leave there going, God, I hate Tony. Oh my God. I thought he was a good guy. He's out of his mind. So I just didn't go. But they know me because high school, I'm lucky. I mean, high school people, some know who I am and they come and support me whenever I work at Zany's, and I'm grateful for that. But I think it's because uh, of the 20th reunion. I think that's kind of was open up their eyes to uh, what I was doing with my life or whatever. So that's different. But it is the record company people. I just want one of them to show up. I mean, I've been gone for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
I quit in 89. That's what's that, 36 years ago? And you don't come once? That seems, I mean, do they see, like, do they see me on Leno and go, hey, honey, that's the guy that quit? Like, did that ever happen? I don't know. And why is it so important to us that that happens?
I bet it did. I bet you that happened. I know
Uh,
it happened.
I know this happened once. A girl I dated in high school wrote me and said, hey, I saw you on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. I was visiting my parents one night and I think we saw you on Leno. And my thought was, you think you saw the guy that you dated in high, like, I mean, how many guys did you date in high school that maybe are on Leno?
That are named Jimmy Pardo.
Right, that are Jamie Pardo. So you think you saw that? It was such a weird thing to say. Like, I don't know.
Well,
It's
she
pretty.
didn't want to be like, "Oh my God, I saw you on TV," and
Yeah,
I'm
but
still, she wanted to be cool.
well, instead now
I
she's a
don't know.
story.
Maybe I saw you. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you doing these days? Where should people come find you?
You know
Your
what?
podcast is Never Not Funny. It's a long running podcast. I think almost as long as or the same as my For Crying Out Loud podcast.
I think we're longer than you,
15
aren't
years,
we? No,
right?
no, we're at 19 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're at 19 and a half. We're coming up on our 20th anniversary in March. It'll be 20 years. So we just passed 19 years. 2006. And so Never Not Funny is the place to go. Nevernotfunny.com, jimmypardo.com for all of my tour dates and all that stuff. The podcast is what I'm doing these days, and I'm just
And you're still doing your fundraiser for Smile Train every year?
well, we did one. We did not want to do one here in 2025. We did one in 2024, which was very, very successful. And they're quite an undertaking. So I don't know. I feel we'll do one that will coincide with our 20th anniversary. So I think we'll have some sort of a big show for that, and that money will go to charity. But that's basically, it's just Never Not Funny. That's where you catch me. And or if
Okay.
you see my name at a local comedy club, come out and see me run my mouth for an hour.
Okay. Thank you so much for doing this.
Of
I
course.
think I love doing something that helps people. You wouldn't know about helping. No, I'm just kidding.
You're just talking about my great charity work.
We make people, no, I'm just joking. Yeah, no, I really, really appreciate it. It's not an easy thing to do. Come on here and talk about like really personal stuff. So I just want to commend you for being willing to do that.
I am honored that you asked me to be a part of it, and I will do anytime. Anytime you ask me, I'm
All
here.
right, everybody go find Jimmy Pardo. He's hilarious. Please listen to his podcast. It's really fun and funny, and it's a whole thing, and they do games and they have other people on the show, and it's really cool. And thanks for listening. Bye.
Life is good.